3, 5, 7 minutes after the time. Maybe within a minute, within 60 seconds or so, there is some leeway in the morning compared to the nighttime. What is this? This is my grandfather is undergoing surgery in Mu'inuddin Qadri, and my grandmother is very sick in the hospital as well, and she's very close to passing away. Please make dua for them. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant him shifa, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it easy for the brothers, grandparents. Is there any sort of music allowed that is halal? I attended some weddings in which there was separate section for men and women, and yet they had music and / dance. So in this question, yeah. So he is saying that just because they had separate section of men and women, then this was misleading for the brother. He thought perhaps music would also be halal. This is what happens. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, أَفَتُؤْمِنُونَ بِبَعْضِ الْكِتَابِ وَتَكْفُرُونَ بِبَعْضِ. Do you believe in some part of the book and reject other parts of the book? يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا أُدْخُلُوا فِي السِّلْمِ كَافَةً. O those who believe, enter into Islam wholly, completely, totally. So when we are practicing some aspects of the deen, then people, they think all of our practices are according to the deen. That person has a beard and he did this, therefore it must be halal. So those who are following some parts of the deen, they have an added responsibility that they should try their best to follow the entire deen, because people will take their practice as a dalil, as a hujjah, as an evidence of the permissibility of something, just because they're doing it. And if a person is associated with the deen, then the responsibility is even greater. Of course, there is no particular type or genre of music which is more halal than others. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam has said, "Al-ghina'u yunbitu an-nifaq fil qalbi kama yunbitu al-ma'u zar'a." Music, it makes the hypocrisy grow in the heart, just like water makes crops grow in the field. Al-ghina yunbitu an-nifaq fil qalb. Music makes the hypocrisy grow in the heart. Most of the music has the topics and of the lyrics and the songs are to incite one's passions towards haram, so it should be avoided. And if somebody has it at a wedding, that's not a dalil or hujjah for it to be permissible. I already answered that. Is using steroids safely haram? So the definition of using it safely is if a licensed medical practitioner has prescribed it for you for a particular condition, then per the dosage, then using it would be permissible. But using it for recreational purposes would not be permissible. If I have anxiety and I take some medicine to cope with it, is that allowed? Yes, if you are prescribed this medicine to cope with anxiety, then it would be permissible for you. There's an announcement, there's a Toyota Corolla brown gold, license plate V338461. It needs to move because it is blocking people in the welder lot, in the lot, in our satellite parking lot, on the corner of North and Swift. Also a Mazda 6 dark gray Z4 82813 must move in the welder lot. It's blocking as well. Can a woman recite Quran during her menstrual days? So if a woman recites Quran for dhikr and dua, like recites the four quls, قُلْ يَا أَيُّهَا الْكَافِرُونَ قُلْ هُوَ اللَّهُ أَحَدٌ قُلْ أَعُوذُ بِرَبِّ الْفَلَقِ قُلْ أَعُوذُ بِرَبِّ النَّاسِ as a dua, or recites Ayatul Kursi as a dua, as a dhikr, then that is permissible. But reciting Quran for tilawat, with the intention of tilawat, that is not permissible during those days. So there is no tilawat for a woman during those days. She can do dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the dhikr of Allah, just like she does subhanallah, alhamdulillah, wa la ilaha illallah, istighfar and salawat, she can also do recite ayats of the Quran with the intention of dhikr. A lot of the mainstream brands have logos that are animal shaped, for example Puma, etc. Is it okay to pray while wearing such brands? My understanding is that so long as it doesn't have eyes, it is okay to wear. So pictures of animate objects are forbidden in our deen. And the reason is that shirk is the biggest crime that can be committed on the surface of the earth. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يَغْفِرُ أَن يُشْرَكَ بِهِ. Verily Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will never forgive the sin and crime of shirk. وَيَغْفِرُ مَا دُونَ ذَلِكَ لِمَن يَشَاءُ. Besides shirk, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can forgive any other sin if He wishes. Likewise, Allah Ta'ala says, إِنَّ الشِّرْكَ لَظُلْمٌ عَظِيمٌ. Assigning partners unto Allah is the greatest dhulm and the greatest form of oppression. And how did shirk come into this world? It came into the world through the medium of pictures. And the story behind that is, Adam alayhi salam was the Nabi of Allah, followed the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, was a very righteous and prophet of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. After him, his sons and daughters that lived in the beginning of time, they were all believers. 100% of the human population, as small as it was, were all believers. And as time progressed, this is in the era now between the first prophet Adam and Nuh the second. Shit alayhi salam came also, but the first Rasul was Nuh alayhi salam. Before Nuh alayhi salam, there was a time that there were 5 people who were very well known for their piety and their taqwa, and they were very righteous individuals. Their names were mentioned in the Quran. Wad, Yawuth, Ya'uq, Nasr. Waddan, Wala, Suwa', Yawuth, Ya'uq, and Nasr. These 5 names mentioned in Surah Nuh. Waddan, Wala, Suwa'an, Wala, Yawusa, Wa Ya'uqa, Wa Nasra. So these 5 individuals were very, very pious people. And anyone had any need, they would come from far and wide and ask them to make dua, and whatever dua they made would be accepted immediately. They were mustajabu da'wat. They were such great individuals that when they raised their hands and prayed to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala immediately accepted their dua. So people loved them as well. They were beloved to Allah and beloved to the people. And then as time passed, then they ended up passing away. They died. They all passed away. They returned to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then some time passed. Iblis thought to himself that he had taken his promise to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, ثُمَّ لَأُغْوِيَنَّهُمْ أَجْمَعِينَ. I will misguide all the children and progeny of Adam. He is my mortal enemy. And he thought to himself, whatever sin I get the people involved in, they can make tawbah to Allah and Allah will forgive them. Or even if they don't make tawbah, if Allah wishes and wills and decides, He may forgive them. But if I want to secure them in Jahannam and to ensure that they are going to Jahannam, then I have to get them involved in the unforgivable crime of shirk. That is the best thing to do from his perspective. So he thought that if I invite them towards shirk, open shirk, direct shirk, then no one will accept that. So he took slowly, he took stage by stage, he invited them towards that. First, he came in the form of a human being to the people and asked them, do you remember Wad, Suwa', Ya'uth, Ya'uq, and Nasr, those pious people of the past? And they said, we love them very much. We miss them a lot. Then he asked them, why don't you make pictures of them and hang them in your home? Then you could always visit them and see them and remember them. So they thought it was a very good idea. So they made pictures and they hung them in their homes. And then one generation just had pictures. Then the next generation, he came to them and he said that these are 2-dimensional pictures. Why don't you make it into statues? They were not objects of worship. They were just statues. What the people used to do is they thought that this was a means of barakah. So they would go to those photos and they would touch them, they would kiss them, and they would make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but sitting by those photos, just to get barakah of the pious people. The next generation, they made statues. And then they would also go and kiss them and worship Allah Ta'ala by the statues. Then the next generation, they started kissing the feet of these statues. And next generation, they started outright worshipping them. مَا نَعْبُدُهُمْ إِلَّا لِيُقَرِّبُونَ إِلَى اللَّهِ زُلْفَى. We worship them so they can bring us closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is how shirk entered into the world. Open polytheism entered. And in the time of Nuh alayhi salam, when he came, these were the names of the idols. That's why Allah Ta'ala says, وَقَالُوا لَا تَذَرُنَّ آلِهَتَكُمْ وَلَا تَذَرُنَّ وَدًّا وَلَا سُوَاعًا وَلَا يَغُوثَ وَيَعُوقَ وَنَسْرًا. That they don't want to leave their gods, their false gods, and these are the names of the gods, which were the names of the original pious individuals. So that is why pictures are haram in our deen, because it has led to shirk. Animate pictures, meaning pictures of humans and pictures of animals. But landscapes, pictures of gardens and flowers and floral art is permissible. As is geometric art, as is calligraphy, as is other modes of art. It is only art which is of human and animals, animate objects, which is not permissible. There are hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, "Inna al-malaikata la tadkhulu baytan fihi kalbun aw taswirun." Verily the angels, they do not enter the home in which there are pictures and which there are dogs. One time in Aisha Siddiqa radiallahu anha, she got some new curtains and put it on the window in the little home that she had with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the small compartment, the hujra. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that Jibreel alayhi salam cannot enter the house because of this curtain that has pictures on it. Remove it. So when you are performing salah, the prohibition is even more greater. That we should not perform salah with the pictures of animate objects on our clothes. But this person is right that if it's so small that it is not, the picture is not aslan, is taba'an, meaning it's not an objective to see the picture. It's not that the whole shirt is covered by the picture. It's very, very small in a corner somewhere, and it really is not discernible what is going on, what animal is it, you can't even determine that. Then there will be some relaxation and permission, if that is how small it is. Yeah, if it's just a shadow of an image or a background, and there's no, the face is not there, it's just outline of an animal, that might be permissible as well. Why is dua not made loudly after the farz salah here, and what is the reason behind it? Jazakallah khair. The reason, there's another question on this side as well. Okay. Some of these questions were already answered on the other side. How does saying Ya Rasulullah make shirk? And I have seen many learned scholars saying Ya Rasulullah, are they all doing shirk? And what is the exact definition of shirk? So what is the exact definition of shirk? And so there are three types of shirk. One is called shirk fi dhat. Shirk fi dhat means assigning partners in the being of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the simplest form of shirk that everyone understands. That means that you don't believe that there's one God, you believe there's 2, 3, 4, 5, any number of gods. Any number of gods. So like the Majusis believe there are two gods, Khaliqul Khair and Khaliqul Shar, the creator of evil and the creator of good. So that was shirk. And the Hindus believe in millions of gods. And the Mushrikeen of Makkah believed in hundreds of gods. So this is called shirk fi dhat, shirk in the being. And the second type of shirk is shirk fi sifat. Shirk fi sifat means that those attributes which are unique to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if you ask the person with respect to that, with respect to the being, he says there's one God. How many gods do you believe in? I worship one God, one Allah. Okay, but then that's sifat, shirk in sifat, meaning those attributes, not the being, the attributes which are unique to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he assigns them to others besides Allah. So he's doing shirk also. What does that mean? It's, for example, لا يعلم الغيب إلا الله. The Quran says no one has complete knowledge of the unseen besides Allah. So if you say any person besides Allah has a complete knowledge of the unseen, any wali has a complete knowledge of the unseen, or if Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam himself has complete knowledge of the unseen, the entire past, present, and future is open in front of him, which people hold this belief. Then if you ask him how many gods do you believe in, he says I believe in one. So is he doing shirk fi dhat? No. But he's doing shirk fi sifat, in the attributes which are unique to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Who has the ability to grant shifa? And who has the ability to grant you a son? And if you are looking for a son, or daughter, if you're looking for a daughter, it is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But if you think someone else besides Allah has the power to grant you a son, besides Allah, someone else has the ability beyond the physical means to change your life, fulfill your desires, then you are making shirk in the sifat. This is proven from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, this type of shirk as well, that this is called shirk. When ayah was revealed in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala spoke about the Christians, that اتَّخَذُوا أَحْبَارَهُمْ وَرُهْبَانَهُمْ أَرْبَابًا مِّن دُونِ اللَّهِ. They have made their monks and their priests as gods besides Allah. So Adi ibn Hatim radiallahu anhu, who was a Christian before he accepted Islam, because he was from the northern Arabian tribes, which were in proximity to the Eastern Roman Empire, and because they were close to the Christians, they ended up accepting Christianity. He asked Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam that, Ya Rasulullah, I'm not objecting on the ayah of the Quran, but I fail to understand how did we make the priest as gods besides Allah? When we only worshipped Allah and they were just our priest. But Allah is saying they made them as gods. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam explained to him that if the Injil said something is halal, but your priest or the Pope, he changed it and said that this is haram, or which is very unlikely. The opposite is more likely, that the Injil said something is haram and the Pope comes and makes it halal. Would you accept that? He said yes. Even till today in the Catholic Church, the Pope has that right to be the source of law, of God's law on earth. Whatever he says is the law of God. So then Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that this power and jurisdiction and attribute is unique to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to declare things halal and to make things haram. And if you give it to someone besides Allah, then you're doing shirk in the sifat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is why Allah ta'ala used the word اتَّخَذُوا أَحْبَارَهُمْ وَرُهْبَانَهُمْ أَرْبَابًا مِن دُونِ اللَّهِ. Again, just a disclaimer, in context with the discussion we had yesterday regarding the Imma fiqh, someone will say, Imam Abu Hanifa declared this halal, Imam Shafi declared that haram. What's the difference? Big difference. The big difference is that they are not shari', they are sharih, with a ha versus a ain. One is a shari', means to consider oneself to be the absolute source independently, without anyone else being dependent on anyone else, to be the independent source of the law. And these imams, they never claimed that. They never said that it's halal because I said so. But rather, they're sharih, they are explaining the sharia. They are commentating on, they're deriving their rulings from the Quran, from the Sunnah, and from the consensus of the Ummah. They're doing legal analogy and they're coming up with the answer, to explaining what Allah wants from us and what Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam desires from us. Whereas these popes, they did not have to give a dalil and give an explanation of the text. They would say, I said so because I have the divine right of making things halal and haram. You see, there's a big difference. So, this is called shirk fi sifat. And the third type of shirk, the second type of shirk was shirk fi sifat. Third one is shirk fil ibadat. Is that in acts of worship, you commit such acts of worship to ghayrullah, to others besides Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Simple act of worship is sajda, prostration. So if you prostrate to someone besides Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then you have committed shirk. Right? But it's not limited to prostration. It is also sacrificing an animal for the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is a type of ibadah. Udhiyya, sacrifice. So if you sacrifice an animal to please Shaykh Abdul Qadir Jilani rahmatullah alayhi, then you are sacrificing an animal to please someone besides Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's different from Isal al-Thawab. Please note that. One is you sacrifice an animal to please Allah, and then you say the reward of this sacrifice, that the meat that is distributed to the poor, I want the thawab of this to go to my parents, my grandparents, or my teachers, or some shaykh, or anyone. That is permissible, because you're sacrificing to please Allah. But one is you're sacrificing an animal to please the dweller in the grave. Then that would be shirk. Fil ibadah. So shirk fil dhat, fil sifat, fil ibadat. So I mentioned saying Ya Rasulullah itself is not shirk. If somebody says it because he misses Rasulullah, he loves Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he says out of love for the Prophet, I'm saying Ya Rasulullah, I miss him, I wish I was with him. So this is proven through, even in an Arabic language, a poet, when he misses his beloved, he will take the name of the beloved with Ya. Doesn't mean that he believes the person is present here and can hear him. The beloved is gone, is passed away maybe, and he misses his beloved, or is in a different country beyond the oceans, and he is stuck somewhere else on an island. So he remembers his family and he says, Ya Fulana. So he's remembering her or remembering him. That's fine. Likewise, a person says, Ya Rasulullah. We cannot rush and say that person is a mushrik or committing shirk. We have to determine what the intention is. And there's no benefit in rushing to pass judgment on anyone regarding kufr and shirk, because Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Man qala li akhihi ya kafir, faqad ba'a bihi ahaduhuma." Whoever says to his brother, "O kafir," then one of the two will be a kafir. which is a very severe warning, narrated in Muslim Sharif, Sahih Muslim. That man qala li akhi, whoever said to his brother, ya kafir, oh you're a kafir, and mushrik is a type of kafir, then one of the two will become a mushrik or become a kafir. Meaning if he genuinely is a kafir, then it's fine. Otherwise, then it will rebound back. The fatwa of kufr, it will come back on you as making takfir. So making takfir, or declaring someone kafir, is a very delicate matter. Even the scholars and the muftis, when they do that, they never say that Zayd is a kafir and Amr is a kafir and Bakr is a kafir. Rather, the standard format of the fatwa is man qala hakadha faqad kafar. Whoever said such and such statement will be a kafir. So it's qualified statement. If it is true, you brought the question that Zayd said this, but the fatwa will not be Zayd is a kafir. The muazzin said, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Zayd came up to him and said, Kadhabta, you are a liar. Is Zayd a Muslim or a kafir? So this is a kalima of kufr. So the mufti will write a fatwa, he will not say Zayd is a kafir because he said Ashhadu an la ilaha. He said you are a liar to the muazzin. Or na'udhu billah, somebody desecrated the Quran. This is a fail of kufr, action of kufr. So there are statements of kufr and actions of kufr. So they will not say since Zayd desecrated the Quran, Zayd is a kafir. They will say man qala hakadha wa man fa'ala hakadha. If so and so said such and such, then he is a kafir. Whoever says this will be a kafir, whoever does this will be a kafir. They don't take the name because you may be falsely attributing it towards him. Maybe you have an agenda. I personally already had this experience where a woman made up this whole false case. She wanted out of the marriage because she was having another affair with another married man, all Muslims involved. But then she made this case that her husband is murtad. He's a kafir. This was a very unique strategy she employed. That her husband is now out of the fold of Islam, therefore her nikah is broken. And she brought him here and then we talked to him. He just had some crisis of faith that regarding his personal situation, that his grandmother, whom he loved dearly so much, she was very beloved to him, and she had excruciating pain for like 2 years, and he had a lingering death. And she was in so much pain that even all the pain medication she would take would not relieve the pain unless she was totally knocked out. So he just made a statement. He said that how can there be an Allah that allows my sweet grandmother to be in so much pain? That's all he said. So his wife was kind of educated a little bit, but that education did not help. So one is the ilm and one is the practice. So she had some knowledge. So she said, this is a kalama of kufr and your iman, you're not my husband anymore. Because you have become murtad, you have forsaken the deen of Islam. You're apostate. And he was very, very scared. He said, no, how is that so? She said, no, you are out of the fold of Islam. And then wanted to get it verified, so she brought him here. Then he was very scared, and he said, I thought that you're going to tie me up and beat me. But the only reason I came here is because my wife is saying that you're not my husband anymore, and I have to figure out what's going on. We talked to him, and then we explained to him a little bit, about half an hour, talked to him, and then he stood up and he said, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. So I said, okay, if you had any doubt about Islam, let's perform the nikah now. He took the kalima. No, she was resisting. I don't want to. I said, oh, there's something else going on here, looks like. Then we had a private conversation and it came out, the whole reality. So, you cannot jump to call someone a kafir. فَقَدْ بَاءَ بِأَحَدٍ. One of the two will become a kafir. So if somebody says, Ya Rasulullah, what do? We say that, what is your intention? If his intention is that Rasulullah ﷺ is not buried only in Medina, but is actually physically present here, and he can hear me, and he can respond to me, and he can aid me, supernaturally come to my aid immediately. Like I'm stuck in the middle of the ocean, and there's a hurricane, so there's no Coast Guard here, there's no one here to come to my aid. If I say, Ya Rasulullah, the Prophet ﷺ will directly, in a supernatural manner, intervene and come and help me. Instead of saying, Ya Allah, he says, Ya Rasulullah, to seek help from Rasulullah ﷺ. So this is contrary to Iyaka na'budu wa Iyaka nasta'in. Only from you do we seek help, only you do we worship. Iyaka na'budu, only you do we worship. Wa Iyaka nasta'in, only from you we seek help. So this is the question was, what is the exact definition of shirk? That was covered. And he says that I have seen many learned scholars saying, Ya Rasulullah. So we have to ask them, these learned scholars, what is their intention? Hopefully they don't have the wrong intention. If they have the wrong intention that Rasulullah ﷺ can hear them and is coming to their aid, then they are not a learned scholar. Second question, what is the hikmah of not having a wall clock in a masjid? This was answered in detail. You can check the YouTube records. We spoke about that 10 minutes about the wall clock already. Why is dua not made loudly after Farz Salah here? The reason is that it is permissible to make a loud dua after Farz Salah, but it is not the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It is not established sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to loudly make congregational dua after every Farz Salah. So the relationship between the Imam and the Muqtadis, it finishes at Salam. After Salam, it is a time to make dua. It is highly recommended to make dua, and we should make dua. The best thing actually is to make a brief dhikr and then complete your sunnah. After making sunnah, then you make your long dua. Not even immediately after the farad. But after the farad also we can make dua. But there are hadiths where Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam once in a while did make dua, so we do it once in a while. If there's a specific request for some special need is there, or some calamity has come upon the ummah, then we do make collective du'as. But we do not ritually, habitually make it part of the salah. Because we don't want to add to the ibadah that which is not part of the ibadah. Because many places it's a part of the salah. If you get up before the imam finishes the dua, then it's like you left the middle of the salah. You have to join with the imam congregationally, and with every dua say Ameen, like we did last night. So that is not proven from the sunnah. For the 6 days of Shawwal, fasting after Ramadan, do we follow the same time for suhoor and salat in the morning? Yes, suhoor ends at the same time as the timetable. Whenever the Fajr time starts, as the Fajr time changes every day, in Shawwal it will also change, then you follow the same time for per day, whatever the time for suhoor is for that respective day. Salat time in Ramadan, we have it earlier, close to suhoor time. But afterwards, we have it before sunrise, like half an hour before sunrise. 4:45, to be precise, will be the Fajr time from Eid day onwards. Why is that? So that it's easier for people. The purpose of the Jamaat timing, to set the Jamaat timing, is takthirul Jama'ah. How you can get majority of people, maximum number of people. If we had the Jamaat now later at like around 5 o'clock, even like today, yesterday, this last 10 days, the number of attendees would be far less. Because people are awake for suhoor and they want to perform salah and then go to rest. So that's why we have it earlier during Ramadan, and thereafter we'll have the Fajr time later. Fajr Jamaat time will be later. To what extent does one have to maintain kinship ties, particularly with extended family? For example, you do not want to be the quote-unquote religious one who breaks ties with those who are not like-minded, but when cousins are dancing in mixed weddings and hugging each other, boys and girls, at dawats with handshakes and doing other things that clearly are against the injunctions of Islam and also hurt your iman in their presence, what should one do? Many quote-unquote religious folk are in a similar situation. Yeah, so this is very obvious that there are many injunctions about maintaining kinship ties, etc. But at the same time, we cannot get involved in haram ourselves at the cost of getting involved in haram. لا طاعة لمخلوق في معصية الخالق. There is no obedience to any creation that incurs disobedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we have to maintain good ties with respect to good akhlaq. These people who are involved in haram, what the problem is that if we start thinking we're better than them, we are more religious than them, we are closer to Allah, more beloved to Allah than them, then we have lost all whatever good we have earned. We cannot be like that. We have to still maintain respect for them, still have hope for them, still make dua for them, still be humble in front of them, still visit them when they're sick, help them when they're financially needy, participate in all of halal occasions. But when they are open violations of the orders of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then we love our relatives, but we love Allah more. And our loyalty to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is stronger and greater. So therefore we have to draw a line there and tell them in the best manner, respectful manner, that we love you and we love to participate, but you know that we are very strict on trying to obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We are afraid about the hereafter. We hope you would learn to abstain from this as well. But if you are caught up in this, that is your choice. But we feel this is wrong what you're doing. We would hope for you also to abstain from it. But we cannot participate. If you say it in the nicest manner, in the best manner, at least they will begin to appreciate your position, hopefully. And if you continue with that, persevere with your good character, you can win them over, inshallah, and they will also abandon that haram, inshallah. But if you continue to participate as if it's nothing and you remain silent, then they will never change. In fact, you might end up changing and become loose in your own faith. This is like in the time of Bani Israel, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions about a town, وَاسْأَلْهُمْ عَنِ الْقَرْيَةِ الَّتِي كَانَتْ حَاضِرَةَ الْبَحْرِ. Ask them about the town which was near the ocean. إذ كانت تأتيهم حيتانهم يوم سبتهم شرعا ويوم لا يسبتون لا تأتيهم كذلك نبلوهم بما كانوا يفسقون. They had a prohibition from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they're not allowed to fish on Saturdays. But what happened is, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saw that they were doing open transgression of the orders of Allah. As a result, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put them in a fitna and a trial. And what was the trial and fitna? The trial and fitna was that on Saturdays, all the fish came up onto the top. This is mentioned in the Quran. And were floating around. And on the rest of the days of the week, the fish went into the bottom of the sea. They could not catch them. So one group, what they did is they thought they were going to be wise and it's outsmart Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so they put traps in the water and trapped the fish on Saturday, but they did not physically catch them and remove them from the water. Then the next day on Sunday, they took them out of the water. And they said that we are not fishing on Saturday, we're just trapping them, we're fishing on Sunday. So there were three groups. One group spoke out against that, what is wrong. Nahi anil munkar, said, beware, this is wrong, this is something we should abstain from. And one group engaged in this wrong practice. And the third group, they did not engage in it, they didn't do it. So they were not hugging and kissing and whatever else is going on here. Dancing and all of that, they didn't do that. But they just maintained ties with them. And they sat with them and ate with them and attended their parties and maintained social relations with the group that was involved. So these groups are mentioned in the Quran. So now the two groups that are not doing it, one is maintaining social ties and one is prohibiting them and saying, no, this is wrong, don't do this. وَإِذْ قَالَتْ أُمَّةٌ مِّنْهُمْ لِمَ تَعِذُونَ قَوْمًا اللَّهُ مُهْلِكُهُمْ أَوْ مُعَذِّبُهُمْ عَذَابًا شَدِيدًا. So the group that was maintaining social ties, they told the group that is prohibiting the wrong, why are you bothering about warning them and stopping them and preventing them? When Allah muhlikuhum, Allah is going to destroy them anyway. O mu'adhibuhum adhabun shadida, Allah is going to give them adhab. Because they believed it was wrong. This group that is just maintaining social ties, they believed it was wrong. They said, Allah is going to destroy them, Allah is going to take care of them. Why do you bother? Let's just go with the flow. You don't have to bother about stopping them. So then they replied, قَالُوا مَعْذِرَةً إِلَىٰ رَبِّكُمْ وَلَعَلَّهُمْ يَتَّقُونَ. No, we are prohibiting the evil and speaking out against what's wrong, so we can present this excuse in the court of Allah that we tried our best to change the situation. And there's also a chance that لَعَلَّهُمْ يَتَّقُونَ, they might make tawbah and repent from their wrong ways. فَلَمَّا نَسُوا مَا ذُكِّرُوا بِهِ. Then Allah Ta'ala says that when they totally forgot about the orders of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala and did not take heed, أَنْجَيْنَا الَّذِينَ يَنْهَوْنَ عَنِ السُّوءِ. Then I saved those who spoke out against the evil. They were the ones who were protected. وَأَخَذْنَا الَّذِينَ ظَلَمُوا بِعَذَابٍ بَئِيسٍ بِمَا كَانُوا يَفْسُقُونَ. And those that did not speak out, they were caught up with those who committed the wrong act. Both of the groups were punished by Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala in a very, very severe type of chastisement, which is mentioned in Surah Al-Baqarah. Allah Ta'ala, what did He say to them? كُونُوا قِرَدَةً خَاسِئِينَ. Become despicable monkeys. So this is a nation that mentally they remained humans and they could recognize each other. One morning when they woke up, they looked at their hands, it's all hairy, and their hands became like the hands of a monkey with claws, and their feet and their body. And then they looked in the mirror, what happened to their faces. And they looked at their family members and they could recognize each other. And they knew who they were, but they could not talk as humans. They did not outwardly and inwardly completely turn into monkeys. Inwardly they still were humans, but outwardly they turned into monkeys. And they started bewailing their own condition and lamenting, and were struck with the utmost type of horror. I mean, what type of horror would that be if a person is morphed into a monkey from outside? And this entire group died within 3 days. Because they changed the outward form of the prohibition by not fishing, but trying to be smart and act and trapping the fish, so Allah Ta'ala morphed their condition as well. Al-jaza'u min jinsil amal. The compensation, either the reward or the punishment is according to the amal. That's what their amal was, and that's what happened. Allahu Akbar. Where are we going with that? Yes, so that's what we're talking about. This question was saying, should you maintain ties? Look, they were not fishing, but they maintained ties. Look what happened to them. They faced the same punishment. So we have to speak out. To be protected from the evil, you have to speak out against the evil. If you're just silent and go with the flow, then you will be considered a participant in that evil. مَنْ رَأَى مِنْكُمْ مُنْكَرًا فَلْيُغَيِّرْهُ بِيَدِهِ. If you see a wrong being committed, change it with your hand. فَإِنْ لَمْ يَسْتَطِعْ فَبِلِسَانِهِ. If you cannot do so, then with your tongue. لَمْ يَسْتَطِعْ فَبِقَلْبِهِ. The lowest level is that you regard it a very evil in your heart. If you have no authority, no jurisdiction to speak out. But if you're family members, then you have some right, some authority to speak out, so you should utilize that. This question is, if you are gay and you go to, all of these questions are addressed to me, if you are this, if you are that. So you should make it third person, if someone is gay. Na'udhu billah, may Allah protect us all from being gay. If someone, I'm going to change the question, it says if you are, but I'll make it, if someone is gay and then they end up going to Jannah, will he still get the Hurul Ain? So the answer to this is from, you can get it from the Quran. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that, first of all, can a gay person enter into Jannah? That depends on two things. Number one is that if he had those inclinations, did he conquer those inclinations and not fulfill them in the wrong manner, or he went ahead and fulfilled his passions in the wrong manner? So there's two things. One is, if you take all of these negative attributes, anger and greed and hirs, and they are not sins. What is a sin is if you act upon the demand of that anger. You get angry, then you punch somebody. That punching somebody, cursing somebody out, that is a sin. Feeling the anger is not a sin. Rather, if you conquer that anger and you overcome it, then you'll get a reward for that. Or somebody is naturally stingy and greedy. Feeling stingy and feeling greedy is not a sin. The sin is that not discharging the zakat. So for one person, it's so easy. He gives the zakat, he gives sadaqah, he gives 1/3 his wealth, he signs up for so many donations, so many things he gives. Another person, just discharging the minimum zakat is a pain. He feels literal pain when he writes that check and the money is going from his account. It just hurts him to his core. But he does it. So is he sinful? He's not sinful. So feeling greed is not a sin. Being greedy is not sinful. It's acting upon the dictates of that greed that's sinful. The reason then why do you even have tazkiyah to begin with if it's not a sin, if all these things are not a sin? It's because once you have greed, then you will end up following the dictates of that. So if you can conquer that greed, then it's easier for yourself. If you conquer, for example, whatever the sickness you might have. We talked about like this person who is feeling inclination towards the same gender. Then we'll say that feeling the inclination doesn't mean right away he's going to Jahannam. If he conquers that and he gets treatment and he overcomes that and he does not fulfill his passions in the wrong manner, then he will be rewarded for overcoming that. But if he gives in and does it, then he has committed a major sin. So now is he out of the fold of Islam? He's still not out of the fold of Islam, but he has a committer of a major sin. He's a fasiq, a sinner. And when he gets to Jannah, will this gay person get the Hurul Ain? The answer to this is in the Quran. وَنَزَعْنَا مَا فِي صُدُورِهِم مِّن غِلٍّ إِخْوَانًا عَلَى سُرُرٍ مُتَقَابِلِينَ. When you enter into Jannah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will take you through a process where your hearts will be cleaned. This is mentioned in the Quran. All the ill feelings and the wrong inclinations that are in the heart will be removed. So he will be calibrated. His calibration which is off will be fixed. So he'll be attracted to what he's supposed to be attracted to. And he'll be aligned in the correct manner. Inshallah. He'll go through an alignment process. وَنَزَعْنَا مَا فِي صُدُورِهِم مِّن غِلٍّ. We will remove from their hearts all the wrong inclinations. That's why in Jannah there will be different levels, but no one will have hasad. No one will have jealousy. No one will say that, why do you have a bigger palace than I do? In the dunya there's so much jealousy, but in Jannah when there's so much difference in the levels, a person in the lower level of Jannah will not be jealous of the one in the higher level of Jannah. Because jealousy is a disease of the heart which will be cleaned before they enter into Jannah. So he'll go through that process, he'll be clean, and then inshallah he might even get hurul ain, and then you won't have a problem with that hurul ain. Okay. Islamically speaking, what steps can you take if a girl breaks your heart? Yes, she was a Muslim, but she did not show much mercy. Right? So hani and lak, you have Mubarak to you that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, the Hadith Qudsi, ana inda munkasiratil qulub. I am very near the broken-hearted ones. If she did not show much mercy, but Allah will show mercy to you, inshallah. That I am very near those who are broken hearts. Allahu Akbar. Hadith Qudsi, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is very near you because your heart is broken. And what steps can you take to, the steps basically, number one is to start loving the one who will never break your heart. Start loving Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whose love, who will always love you back more than you can imagine. He will never break your heart. And all the love of this dunya was talked about after Asr yesterday. Mufti Azad spoke about Ishq Majazi and Ishq Haqiqi. This topic was taken up in detail. It was a whole session just on this. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, those who love Him, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala always loves back. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Hadith Qudsi that whoever comes towards me one step, I will come towards him 10 steps. The mafhum of the hadith is that whoever comes towards me an inch, I will come towards him a foot. Whoever comes towards me a foot, I will come towards him a yard. Man atani yamshi ataytuhu harwala. Whoever walks towards me, I will run towards him. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, Ya ayyuhan nas, ma gharraka bi rabbika al-kareem. Ya ayyuhal insan, ma gharraka bi rabbika al-kareem. That, O human being, why are you turned away and you do not love me when I am your most beloved Lord? I love you. Allah is showing that He loves us, yet we are turning our back from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, if you are fine and dandy and happy and with her, then perhaps it would be less chance for you to remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That could have been an adhab for you, and this could be a mercy for you. Asa an takrahu shay'an wa huwa khayrun lakum. So many times you dislike something, it's painful for you, but there is a hidden mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allowed you to go through this process where your heart is broken because He wants you to come back towards Him. So, trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, pour your heart out to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can heal your heart, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can take care of your physical needs as well in this worldly life. As human beings, you need a partner, and there are physical needs of yours, emotional needs that you have, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can make means for that. If you adopt taqwa, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَمَن يَتَّقِ اللَّهِ يَجْعَلْ لَهُ مَخْرَجًا. Whoever adopts taqwa, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will make an opening for you. وَيَرْزُقْهُ مِنْ حَيْثُ لَا يَحْتَسِبْ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will provide from you from such places and avenues you never ever imagined. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can give you that happiness and bliss in a full nikah, in a marriage, inshaAllah. Such a marriage that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about in the Quran. وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ أَنْ خَلَقَ لَكُم مِنْ أَنفُسِكُمْ أَزْوَاجًا لِتَسْكُنُوا إِلَيْهَا. Such partners that you will gain comfort from them. وَجَعَلَ بَيْنَكُمْ مَوَدَّةً وَرَحْمَةً. And He will make love between you and mercy between you. So she will not break your heart then. Inshallah, she will keep your heart happy. Allah can provide. Allah is the Razaq, He's the provider. She's not the last girl in the world. There are many more beautiful girls, inshallah, nice ones that Allah will provide for you. You have to trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You have to show to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Oh Allah, I trust in you, I believe in you, I pray to you. Make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah can provide. From such places you can never imagine. Do not lose hope. Another question here, is it halal to do a nikah over Skype when two parties are in different countries? Right. And also, are fireworks haram? So there are two very different questions. So first one is nikah over Skype. Is that nikah over the phone, over Skype, in such a manner where the groom is in one country, the bride is in another country? It's not permissible to do it over the phone like that. How you can do it over the phone though is if one of the parties assigns someone to be their representative. For example, somebody is in, the girl, for example, due to visa restrictions, she is in Pakistan and the groom is here in America. So in this case, what we have to do is the girl who's there over the phone If you do ijab and qabul, offer and acceptance of marriage, that will not work. The nikah will not be valid. But what we can do is we can ask the girl from Pakistan that over the phone she appoints somebody to be her representative, her wakil here in America. And then that can be done on the phone. That on the phone she appoints someone, she says, so and so, you be my representative. And she has witnesses for that. So when I will perform the nikah, I will ask the representative that, okay, so you represent the girl? Yes. Did she give you the power of attorney for this nikah, limited power of attorney? He will say, yes, I'm her representative. I can offer her hand in marriage. Do you have any witnesses? Yes, so and so and so and so. Then I'll ask them, did you hear? They will say, yes. What did you hear? We heard that she told this brother that the brother would normally be her father in a normal circumstance, but in this case, out of country, could be any male. Could be her cousin, could be uncle, could be a brother. Okay. She said that I give you the authority to perform my nikah with so and so with such a mahr. And he accepted that and we were present. So I'll say fine. So once we have finished this discussion, we still have not performed the nikah, nor have we performed half the nikah, ijab and qabul, because we didn't do anything. The only thing we did so far is establish that this person is now representing the woman in Pakistan. Then we'll ask the person, now that it has been established, do you here in the presence of these witnesses offer the hand of the sister and so in marriage to the brother? And he will say, yes, I do. Then we'll ask the brother, do you accept? And he will say, yes, I have accepted. Note that you must use the past tense or the present tense, not the future tense. If you use the future tense, the nikah will not be valid. Like in the American culture, the guy, he bends down on one knee and with a ring and he says that, will you marry me? And he asks the woman and then she says, I will. So there's not a nikah because it's the future tense. It just means I will maybe if I feel like it in the future. It's just a promise regarding a future event. So the nikah will not be valid. So sometimes when you perform a nikah and then you say, do you accept? If he says, I will. So then the nikah will not be valid because he has to say, I have accepted her or I am accepting her, past or present, not a future tense. The nikah will not be valid. So then afterwards, and then you recite the dua. That's the actual rukn and the pillar of the nikah. And on top of that, sunnah is to recite the khutbah and make a dua. So the nikah can be done over the phone. If you heard people saying the nikah is done over the phone, over Skype, but in this manner. If they are over there overseas and you're doing ijab and qabul on the phone, that's not permissible because you have to be in the same, the girl and the boy have to be in the same majlis or their respective representatives. If somebody is in Pakistan and the girl and the guy is in Australia and you can sit and perform the nikah in Lombard, if you have the representatives of both present. You represent the girl, you represent the boy, you give the hand of the girl and he says, yes, I accept on behalf of the boy. You can do that. Oh, fireworks, yeah. I forgot about that. Also, are fireworks haram? Fireworks is, depends. If you're doing, number one, if you're giving ida or harming people, disturbing people, then it would be haram. It is something undesirable because it's a wastage of money. But we cannot give use the word haram, but you'll say it's highly undesirable because of the huge wastage of money. You pay for something, you buy it, and then you burn it up. And there's just some temporary excitement about the lights, but it's something that is a waste of money. But I cannot say it's haram. If it involves disturbing people, then it would be haram because of that. Ida ul muslimi haram. The Prophet ﷺ said, causing pain and difficulty to a believer is haram. Taking children to see the fireworks on 4th of July, if you're just seeing it as some type of entertainment and they're excited by the lights or by the shining fireworks, that would not be haram, no. Because you're not engaging in it. They're already doing it. Whether you see it or not, it's going to be done. What is the meaning of, or ruling? I believe it says ruling, handwriting is like that. What is the ruling of extending one's feet in the direction of the qibla? Is it just adab issue or is this a sin? So extending the feet, this is a sign, this is considered something of disrespect. Because if you are talking to your parents or you're talking to your elders or something, you will not sit in a manner with your feet straight out in front of them. This is becoming more and more common in our culture, in schools, students would not stretch their feet towards the teachers as well. But we are living in such a culture where two things are slowly being lost completely. One is adab and second is haya. So it becomes harder and harder for the new generation to relate to what we're talking about. So stretching out the feet in the direction of someone would be considered a means of disrespect for that person. So that is why we should avoid it. And respecting the Quran, respecting the masjid, respecting the adhan, respecting the qibla, respecting the Kaaba, these are all part of the deen. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, وَمَن يُعَظِّمْ شَعَائِرَ اللَّهِ فَإِنَّهَا مِن تَقْوَى الْقُلُوبِ. Whoever shows respect to the signs of Allah, this is called the sha'airillah. The Kaaba is a huge sha'air of Allah. It is a sign that indicates Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's a house of worship of Allah, the mother masjid of all the masajid. So to show disrespect towards the house of worship is a sign of lack of taqwa. Showing respect is mentioned in the Quran. How would you go about breaking a friendship that is not allowed in Islam? This has been a long friendship and I find it impossible to break this friendship straight up, but I feel guilty with every conversation. So alhamdulillah, one good opportunity is you could use this as an excuse that I had the tawfiq and guidance to mashallah make itikaf in the month of Ramadan, nafil itikaf, sunnah itikaf, and I came to the masjid and I realized that what we are engaged in is not right. This is something that is going to take away the barakah. Even if you get married, this is a haram thing that we're involved in right now. And any such type of communication that we're engaging in before marriage will take away from the barakah and blessing if you do get married. And if you don't even get married, you get married to someone else, then it's more heartbreaks that we talked about earlier. That's all it's going to bring. It's just going to break your heart. It's not going to help you anywhere. So use this as an excuse and present it that therefore, for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I want to try to close this chapter. And I hope that Allah Ta'ala blesses you and you find someone good in your life and I will go on my own way. And may Allah Ta'ala reward both of us and save us and protect us. If it is khair and barakah for us, then unite us. If it is not, then keep us happy in our own respective ways. You have to have the courage. Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himmat and courage to be able to say those words. I know it's much easier for me to say it than for you to say it perhaps. But it requires that himmat and courage and you will be rewarded for that, for taking the right step. Allah Ta'ala will help you inshallah and we all make dua for you. When doing istibra, do we have to make sure that the urine drops have stopped or we have to make sure that the opening is completely dry? Some amount of wetness is usually always there. Jazakallah khair. So there's two things. One is called istibra, one is called istinja. Istibra is to ensure that no drops of urine are coming out. And there is a huge amount of ignorance regarding this. Many people never even heard the word. What is istibra? Some people might have heard of istinja, but very few people even know what is istibra. Istibra is actually a process which is specifically for males actually, that they have to ensure that there are no drops of urine coming out after finishing urinating. After a person finishes urinating, if he passes a whole jug of water, that doesn't mean anything because he might have used a whole half jug of water, a full jug of water and over his private part, but then when he gets up, if he did not make proper istibra, then there will be drops of urine that will come out onto his clothes and will soil his clothes, and then his salah will not be valid. So you have to make sure that there are no drops of urine coming out. And then all the drops in the pathway, in the passageway have all come out. After doing that, then you wash yourself. So do you have to make sure that the opening is completely dry? Not in istibra, not in the first phase. You have to make sure all the drops in the passageway come out. Then the second phase is the istinja, you wash it, you use toilet paper first and then water. Then it will make sure that the wetness at the opening of the urine will also be washed away. Recently, girls were kidnapped in Nigeria by Boko Haram and were made into slaves for the men. Same thing happened with the Yazidis in Iraq, where young girls were taken as slaves. Some of them were young as 14 years old. What is the basis in Islam for this? Na'udhu billah, nothing in Islam. These people claim to be following the sunnah of the Prophet. So you need to be really educated big time that these people are not following Islam in any means. They are very far away from Islam. They are not the Islamic State. We had a whole seminar refuting them about what is the Khilafat, talking about what is the real Khilafat versus the so-called Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi's Khilafat. So this is one of the biggest fitnas of our time. They have nothing to do with the deen. There's a consensus of all the ulama and scholars of the ummah. There's no genuine scholarship from any school of thought that says that the Islamic State is a genuine Islamic State and that they're following the Sharia. Rather, they are flagrantly violating left and right all ahkam and Sharia rules of Sharia. And These are some of the things. In the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about the rights of prisoners and how they should be treated. In the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, the Sahaba, in one instance, the Ansari Sahaba, they remained hungry and they did not eat the meal and they fed their prisoner mushrik. Over here, they're beheading people. People who come to bring aid to civilians, and some of them were even Muslims. One of them was a convert Muslim, revert Muslim, that I remember. This is just the one I remember, even though I'm not necessarily following them in particular, all their horrific acts, which just creates more anxiety for us. But I just happen to recall that, I believe it was just from Indiana, a neighboring state, one American convert who reverted to Islam, who was out there on a humanitarian mission, and he was caught by the so-called Islamic State and he was killed by them. Na'udhu billah. So these people are biggest enemies of Islam. They're spoiling the name of Islam. Boko Haram, of course, is also, themselves are haram. All right, and what they're doing is haram, and capturing these Muslim girls. The enemies of these people are Muslim people. They went in Iraq and they had a target hit list of all the ulama, all the fuqaha, and all the scholars, and they slaughtered them in their homes. They pinpoint all the scholars. The reason they attack, ISIS kills all the scholars, whichever city they enter into first. They kill off the ulama before they kill anyone else. They don't attack Yahud. They're not killing Jews or Christians. They're killing Muslims first. Why? It's because, not that killing Jews and Christians is permissible, don't get me wrong, unless in proper context, if there's a genuine war going on. But in a normal situation, then all non-Muslims and all human beings have rights. So they kill the ulama because the ulama speak out against them. The ulama warn the people about their false ideologies from the pulpit, and they preach to the people that these people are wrong. That's why they kill the ulama first. First-hand report from one of our teachers we met in Hajj, he was telling us, through contacts he has in Iraq, in Mina, he was telling us about all the ulama that were one by one targeted and killed by ISIS in their areas of their control, and in Mosul, in Fallujah that they had, and other areas that they had controlled, in the Anbar province, and Syria, of course, as well. So we should not be impressed by them and their ideology. We should, if you have any inclination towards them by watching their things, first of all, we should not watch their propaganda. It is not only harmful for our dunya, because people will know that we are watching that and come knocking on our door, or maybe break down our door and arrest us. That's one immediate problem. And long-term problem is in our own akhirah also. We'll be joining up with the wrong group. Why did you say yesterday, Alhamdulillah, there are no pillars in the main hall? Right. So I was giving an example about something, and I said, Alhamdulillah, there are no pillars, for the reason that it's easier for the public to see what's happening in the front. If you go in a masjid where there are a lot of pillars, then people are stuck behind the pillars, they can't see the imam, and they have to go around the pillars. That's why I was saying, Alhamdulillah, there are no pillars. Is it true, Mufti Minhaj, that you know a person sins when you look at them? No, it's not true. I don't have any karama like that. If the money from the vending machine goes to the masjid, is it sadaqah to buy candy from it then? This is the hadith of Bukhari, the first hadith of Bukhari. إِنَّمَا لِكُلِّ مْرِئٍ مَا نَوَى. Every person will get the reward what they intended. So it's up to you. If your intention is that I'm hungry, I'm going to grab a Snickers because I'm hungry, or I need a break, I'm going to grab a Kit Kat. So then, oh, you got it, what I'm talking about. So that's what their promotion is. You're hungry, grab a Snickers, take a break, eat a Kit Kat. So if that is your intention, then you will not get any thawab, because you're not even considering the donation to the masjid. But if your primary intention is, subhanallah, I could walk across the street and get it, but I'm going to, or I could go to some wholesaler and get it at Walmart, maybe a cheaper price. At Sam's, I could go to Costco's to buy it, or Sam's Club to buy chocolate, and I can buy in large quantities and it'll be cheaper for me. But I'm going to buy here because I want the money to go in sadaqah. If that is your intention, inshallah, you most definitely will be rewarded for that. Is wearing fur haram, and what if it's fake fur? So wearing fur is nowadays, with all these species, endangered species, it might not be something good to do because the animals are killed, etc. But from the Shari perspective, in the past, they did not have so many different types of material and cloth. So natural fur was used in the past extensively. So there's no reason. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that سَخَرَ لَكُم مَا فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَمَا فِي الْأَرْضِ جَمِيعًا مِّنْهُ. He has created for your service everything in the heavens and the earth. Inna dunya khuliqat lakum, this world has been created for you, wa antum khuliqtum lil akhirah, you have been created for the hereafter. Right. But this is provided that the animal is killed in the least painful manner possible. If animals, if you talk to like people from the, what are they called? People for the ethical treatment of animals, PETA, and other groups, Greenpeace, and other groups that are there for the environment and for animals' welfare, they'll tell you that what's going on in the industry is very harmful for the animals, and they're caught up in these traps, and then they're suffering for extended periods of time until finally, they're killed and they're slaughtered or they're skinned alive. If that is the case, na'udhu billah, then that action will be haram, deriving the fur in a haram manner. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said that Inna Allah kataba alaykum al-ihsana fi kulli shay. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants you to do everything with perfection in the best manner possible. Subhanallah. He said this, right? And after that, he gave the example of the two dirtiest things possible. One is really dirty and one is even worse than that. And he said this should be done with ihsan too. Ihsan in perfection in everything you do. And then he said, hatta, to the extent, إِذَا ذَبَحْتُمْ فَأَحْسِنُوا الذِّبْحَ. When you make zibahs of an animal, when you slaughter an animal, do it in the best manner. Slaughtering is not something, when you do something in the best manner, the first thing comes to your mind is like write when you're writing, or you tell the students, what's wrong with your writing? Write in a beautiful manner so we can read it, what you're saying, what you're writing in your exams. You should have good handwriting. You should do things perfectly, meaning you should dress in a nice manner, you should talk in a nice manner, you should walk in a nice manner, you should present yourself, you should be presentable. This is what comes to mind. When you park your cars in the parking lot, park in a nice manner. Don't park taking up 2 parking spots. This is ihsan in everything. Or when you're studying, be good in your studies, be top in your studies, whatever you're studying. In your playing sports, be the best athlete, be the best student. Inna Allah kataba alaykum al-ihsan. But Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, to the extent, إِذَا ذَبَحْتُمْ, when you slaughter in the best manner. Subhanallah. In the least painful manner for the animal. There are so many etiquettes there. Don't slaughter one animal in front of another animal. So he's looking and he's scared and terrified that, I'm next. Give the animal water to drink before you slaughter it. So you're not slaughtering a thirsty animal. Sharpen the knife to the extreme so that it is a quick cut for the animal. And as it goes into shock and the blood starts coming out, then it is knocked senseless and it does not feel the pain. There were tests done by many veterinarians and other neurologists they looked at the brain and they took the waves and images of the pain the animal feels, and they said that the Islamic method of slaughtering is the least painful method of slaughtering for the animal. Compared to how over here they take the bolt pistol, which is a gun in which a huge piece of iron comes out, a rod comes out, not a bullet but an iron rod, and then they shoot the cow in the head, and it crashes through the skull and into the brain and knocks the cow senseless. While it's completely in its senses, they smash the skull and the brain of the cow, and then they slaughter it. So this is what the civilized people do. And then the Muslim way of slaughtering is the least painful method of slaughtering. And then Rasulullah ﷺ said, وَإِذَا قَتَلْتُمْ اللَّهُ أَكْبَرُ فَأَحْسِنُوا الْقِتْلَةَ. Even if you have to kill a human being, first was zabah of an animal, second is qatal. Qatal is of a human being. When you kill a human being, فَأَحْسِنُوا الْقِتْلَةَ, then kill in the best manner. Kill in the best manner. No matter how evil the man was. Allah, what comes to mind is that clip. I was very unfortunate to have seen that clip that comes to mind. Even if you kill a person that deserves to be killed, kill him in the best manner. Don't kill it. And why this was sickening is because there was a horrific murder that comes to mind right now. I wasn't planning to say this, but I'll share it with you since it comes to my mind. But the worst thing is that the name of Allah was taken. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, and they're killing someone. Who are they killing? Muammar Gaddafi. Muammar Gaddafi was a tyrant, and he killed so many people, he had so many enemies, and he was on the run. And then when they found him, then how they abused him and dragged him in the streets, and they sodomized him, and this, and they tortured him, and saying Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, they killed him in such a bad, evil manner. Did anyone see that? I don't know if anyone happened to see that torturous thing. It's not something you would like to see. But the worst part is, what type of image you're presenting about Islam. People say, this is how Muslims kill. Okay, fine, he was a tyrant, a zalim, maybe he deserved to die. He has a lot of people, a lot of widows, and a lot of orphans. They would love to see him killed. But they were so elated, so excited, and they're killing him in such a manner. No, there's a proper manner. Even if there's a proper protocol, there has to be witnesses, there has to be a judicial system, you have to go through the court system, judgment has to be passed, and then then even if death is the capital punishment that is going to be meted out, then with a sword, with one strike, the one who's a trained Jallad, who knows how to do it, he's not going to mess up and then try again and again. In one shot, the head is severed from the torso. So over here we're talking about fur. Yeah, so if the animals are being tortured, then it would not be permissible. Should man do more than one marriages? How the Quran and Sunnah directs us. Allahu Akbar. Especially in the time when there's a lot of sins. Whenever I talk about multiple marriages, the Quran does not direct us to have. It says in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَانْكِحُوا مَا طَابَ لَكُم مِّنَ النِّسَاءِ مَثْنَى وَثُلَاثَ وَرُبَاعَ. You may marry, you have permission to marry 2 women or 3 women or 4 women. And then the same ayah says, وَإِنْ خِفْتُمْ أَلَّا تَعْدِلُوا. If you're afraid that you cannot be just, فَوَاحِدًا, then you must only marry one. My story from me, because I always say it when I come to this, is the watermelon story. Do you remember? Who remembers the watermelon story? You remember the watermelon story? Eh? The Sunday Academy I mentioned. So there's bare minimum people here. Majority who does not know the watermelon story? Raise your hand. Okay, so it's worth repeating it. So Shaykh Ashraf Ali Thanwi rahmatullah alayhi, this is an example. When you say وَإِنْ خِفْتُمْ أَلَّا تَعْدِلُوا, if you're not going to be just, then one. He was very, very, very just. He did not have any children from the first marriage, and he tried for many, many years. And this was before, IVF and everything. And so he got married a second one, because the question already came about IVF and gender selection, and you want to implant only the boy. That was the question. Na'udhu billah. So he married a second wife, but it was decreed by Allah Ta'ala in the second wife he didn't have any children either. So then he didn't go and marry a third one. He got the point. He did not marry third or fourth after that. Because his purpose was to have children, but after the second one did not have it, then he realized that maybe there's issue with me rather than with her. So in any case, he had 2 wives. After he found out that he didn't divorce the second one too, like, I married you because I want to have children, now I found out it's not my first wife's problem, it's my problem, therefore I don't need you anymore. He still kept her. He maintained best relations with the second wife and with the first wife, both. And he was very, very fair and just with both of them. And the fact that how fair Shaykh Ashraf Ali Thanwi rahmatullah Hakim al-Ummat was well known to all of his students and disciples. That any gift he had, he would divide it half and half. Anything he would buy 2. One for one wife, one for the other wife. He never bought anything extra for one wife, not for the second wife. And that is what is required. And you cannot spend more nights with one wife compared to the next wife. It is farad that you have to have the ta'adil fit tabiit, meaning spend equal amount of nights with each wife. You can't spend more, 2 to 1, 2 nights with the new one, 1 with the old one. You can't do that. You have to have 1 to 1 ratio. So then, one person, he came from a village and he came to Shaykh Ashraf Ali Thanwi rahmatullah alayhi, and he brought 2 watermelons. He didn't bring 1 watermelon, he brought 2 watermelons. So Mawlana Ashraf Thanwi rahmatullah alayhi saw that and he said, Jazakallah khair, he accepted the gift. And then he told his students that, go bring a knife, measure the watermelon exactly in length, and then cut the watermelons exactly in half. And send a half of each watermelon to one home and half of each watermelon to the other home. So the person brought the gift, he said, oh Shaykh, he was so happy. Inside he was very confident, and he said that, Alhamdulillah, you don't have to do that. You can just take 1 to one home, 1 to the other home. He said, why is that? He said that, I measured the length of both of them are exactly the same, the width of both of them are exactly the same, the weight of both of them are exactly the same. And I actually had to try so hard. I went through so many watermelons, so many stalls, and with great difficulty I found literally like the clone. These are twins, identical twin watermelons. Just so you don't have to cut both of them in half and do this exercise. That's futile, that won't be required. So Mawlana Thanwi said, Jazakallah khair. Then he said, go bring the knife and cut both of them in half. So he said, did you not hear what I just said? Why are you still doing that? He said, do you know it's sweet? So this is called justice. If you are at that level, then go ahead. If you're not at that level, then you'll be questionable on the Day of Judgment. We end with that today. Alhamdulillah. You passed the time. Subhanallah bihamdihi. Subhanakallah wa bihamdik. Nashhadu la ilaha illa anta nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Inshallah, we'll recite Surah Yasin Khatam and make dua now. Thereafter will be time for Ishraq and rest.